Good evening once again, friends, and welcome to the series. And today I'm going to start with Master's talk, where he's saying that how did God, the one reality, manifest this universe of appearances? And then he says that he did so through the law of duality. His one consciousness took on the appearance of opposites, of positive and negative, of light and darkness, of pleasure and pain, and so on to an infinity of contrasting illusions. So let us try to see this subject a little more into depth. That when we say that yes, God has created this universe, then how has He created this universe? We say at one time, Yogananda was saying that don't even say that God created this universe, because there was nothing available to Him to create it. And it was He alone in the beginning. So He has not created this universe, but He has become this universe. And we see in our Hindu scriptures also, where we say that the whole universe, where we of 100 billion and who knows how many billion galaxies we have in this universe, they are nothing but a body of God, and they should be perceived in that regard. So you see, God has become this universe, and how He has become, and then Yogananda explains it further, that we should see God as absolute consciousness, as an absolute awareness, as Chetna, what we call in Hindi and Sanskrit. And God kept a part of this consciousness, and He vibrated this consciousness. And since in a vibration, there is always, when a vibration is there is always a duality, which you can see from the example of a tuning fork. In some of our science experiments, we must have seen that how a tuning fork vibrates. So when it vibrates, how does it look like? It just looks like it creates an illusion of solidity when the two tongs are vibrating very fine and very fast. And you can also see how the propeller of an aircraft, when it is revolving, or even a fan for that matter, when it is revolving at a very high speed, vibrating at a very high speed, it creates an illusion of solidity. So in the same manner, when God, as absolute consciousness, He vibrated a part of His consciousness, and that created the sound of Om, as we call, which is the motherly sound, which is the sound of the spheres, we call, with the sound of the music of the spheres, what we call. And this Om finally got condensed into all these myriad forms as trees, mountains, birds, animals, and human beings, of course. And another analogy which we can use to see is how to imagine that, let us say, since God has manifested this universe from a subtler level to the grosser level, and when we see around ourselves, we only see the gross manifestations. So you can also take the example of steam. So when we have steam which is much subtler, it is just visible to the naked eye. But when it gets condensed, then it becomes vapor, or then it becomes water, which is nothing but again a different form of steam. But then you can relate to it in a much tangible way. So that is how, and when you further freeze that water, it becomes solidified and it becomes ice. And so you can say that the consciousness is the same, or the substance is the same, but depending upon how subtle and how gross they are, the illusion of solidity is created around us. And this is being proven by these scientific discoveries also, just in the last 100 years, we can say, and especially now when we are getting the more and more discoveries in the field of quantum physics, we know that everything around us, whether we see some animate objects or inanimate objects, although they appear solid, but inherently they are not solid, but they are condensed energies. But then Vedantic philosophy and Sanatan Dharma and Guruji himself, Yogananda, he's telling us that this universe is nothing, but this energy is nothing but is coming from the consciousness of God, and it is His thought forms which are creating this all these creations. So there are many ways, and when we say that this whole universe is like a dream, then what should be and how should we be relating to it? Sometimes when we live in this universe, it doesn't look like a dream. And when we are here, when we are battling our day-to-day lives, when we are rearing our children, when we are living in a family, when we go to our offices, and when we deal with our boss, somehow it doesn't appear to us that we are living in a dream, because it looks like as if we are living in a real world. But then Master also said that this is because you are not one with the dreamer's consciousness. And I can also suggest you another example. Let us say when we sleep and when we have dreams in our night, on some nights. So how does it look like? In a dream you can have different scenes. You may be doing X, Y, Z in the dream, but then when you wake up, suddenly you realize that it was all a dream, and it was not, although in the dream it was looking very real to you, but when you wake up, it doesn't look any real any longer. And same way, Master said that this universe is also not to be taken too seriously, but then unless we wake up from this universe, we won't be able to see this as a dream. So, our job, all the saints, if you see, whether it was Yogananda or whether there were other saints, they were always telling the same thing, that do not take this life so seriously, because it is nothing but a movie show. It is a cosmic movie that God is running through. But then you will see it as movie only when you will wake up in God. Because unless your consciousness becomes one with the God's consciousness, who is dreaming this universe, then alone can we see this as a dream. And this is very important, because at one point Yogananda also said that if you do not know to handle this life carefully, then sometimes this life can become a nightmare. And this is how sometimes we get so much entrenched into all our miseries and all our sufferings, that somehow we feel that there is no end to our sufferings, and we somehow feel that there is no ray of hope left for us. So Master here is also suggesting to us that let us take another analogy. He said that in the another next line, if you read it further, he says that a part of his consciousness moved, as the Bible tells us, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of waters. We might compare that motion to the motion of waves on the surface of the ocean. The ocean level never changes, even when the waves rise very high, for every upward movement at one place is compensated for by a downward movement at another. The overall water level remains ever the same. Even so, God, the ocean of spirit, remains unaltered by his creation. Although at the surface of his consciousness, his spirit moves, and that movement or vibration produces duality, like the rising and falling of the waves on the sea. And just to share with you, this morning, I was finding very difficult, somehow something was going on in my mind as far as on the family front is concerned. And I was thinking like how difficult it is to live in this world. And I was feeling that somehow if there is one escape route available to me, I would like to escape, and I would not like to live in this world where every day you have to battle with people and their thoughts and your day-to-day living. And is there any escape route available to me? But then the more I was trying to battle with these thoughts, and I was not finding a way. But then as I was reading this book, and because I had to share this webinar this evening, suddenly this thought came to me, which Swami Kriyananda also shared with us, that if we are battling with the thoughts, then that will not help us find a solution. Sometimes, because Yogananda said that thoughts are not individually rooted, but they are universally rooted. So when we say that thoughts are disturbing me, how can we change those thoughts? So this is what I wanted to share with you through this webinar, because sometimes thoughts can appear so much, we become so entrenched into our thoughts, if they are negative, sometimes it becomes very difficult to get over them. So here Swami Kriyananda is giving us a technique. He's saying that please do not battle with the thoughts, because no longer, if you, let us say, this thought comes to you that okay, my friend has betrayed me, or let us say people are not listening to me, and the more you battle with this thought, your mind will suggest you more than 100 reasons that okay, you are on the right track and you will not be able to come out of it. But Swamiji said that the only way to get out of it is to go beyond the mind and to live and to raise your consciousness. So how can we do that? As Swamiji and Yoganandaji also used to highlight, that just like in the universe, there are layers of thoughts. There are certain higher thoughts, there are certain medium thoughts, and there are lower thoughts. Similarly, in our own bodies, we have different centers, and those who have read about yoga philosophy, they know that we have chakras in our spine, and the above three chakras are centers of higher consciousness, and the lower three chakras in our spine are the centers of lower consciousness. So if we have a technique, and if we can raise our consciousness and try to live and retain our consciousness in the upper three chakras, then you will see that immediately the quality of thought changes. So with this thought, as Swamiji said that at once upon a time, as he was getting into a mood, and the more harder he was trying to get out of this mood, he was finding it more and more difficult. And so he thought that, okay, let me try this simple thing, that he sat firmly in his meditation pose, and then he tried to calm down his heart by doing the alternate nostril breathing or some other breathing technique, and then he focused his mind very firmly at the point between the eyebrows. And then he said that it took him just 5 minutes to get beyond that mood condition. And immediately in those 5 minutes, his thoughts changed. So with this technique, I have tried so many times in my daily lives, because these kind of things happen day in and day out, because when we are in families, when we are in our day-to-day world, because sometimes on some days you may be feeling that okay, the world is all right, but suddenly you find that your energy sinks and you get into a lower consciousness, and suddenly the circumstances start appearing difficult for you. And I have always realized that rather than battling with the circumstances in those conditions and finding a way out through reason alone, what has helped me is that I sit calmly in that moment and try to bring my awareness at the point between the eyebrows, firmly concentrating my gaze there, and also trying to become one and trying to become absorbed in the God's consciousness. And I find that always this technique helps me. So this evening also, let us friends try this, that okay, let us sit with me sit on firmly and keeping your back straight, and let us do this alternate nostril breathing, which will help you to calm down your heart's vibrations, which is very easy by doing this mudra, that where you close the right nostril with the thumb, and then you start inhaling through the left nostril up to a count of, let us say, 6, and I'll count for you. 1, and then you close your left nostril and hold the breath to the same number of count. And then you inhale through the right nostril. And now you start inhaling through the right again. Hold the breath. And then exhale through the left. One more time. Hold. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Hold. Exhale. Let us do one cycle at our own pace, keeping our gaze uplifted as if we are looking at a distant mountain peak. Inhale to the count of 6. Hold to the count of 6. And then exhale to the count of 6. And try to detach your heart from all the mundane things of this world. Day-to-day thoughts and feelings which always pull you down. And as you are keeping your gaze uplifted, try to see a golden light at the point between the eyebrows as a symbol of Guru, as a symbol of divine presence in yourself. Focus deeply into this golden light. Concentrating and visualizing it with all your heart's love. Feeling that God is your own. He is much nearer to you than you think and feel. And He is always ready to help you. Keep on looking into this golden light, feeling the warmth and love. And try to bring this light now from the point between the eyebrows into your heart. Where like a magic, this light stills all the restlessness of our hearts and gives us instant peace. And joy. Let us sit in this state, feeling the peace and joy of the Master and sharing this joy and peace with everyone around us. Let us sit in this state for 2 minutes. Shanti, Shanti. How did you feel, friends? It was a very simple activity, and I urge you that whenever those moments of turmoil come in your lives, so rather than battling with the thoughts, do this simple activity. It doesn't take more than 3 to 5 minutes to do it. Whether you are in office, cubicle, or you are at home, you can still find a place to dive deeper. And this is what is the meaning when masters say that this world is nothing but a dream. So we have to find that how can we relate to it. We will not be able to see it as a dream unless we make it a habit to go deep within us. Because just like an ocean, master is saying that on the surface of ocean you have waves, because waves of duality are always playing. So sometimes we are on an up wave, and sometimes some days we are on the down wave. But if you go deeper into the ocean, the depth of ocean is always calm. So that depth of ocean is always with us. that key is always with us. But nobody can do this for us. We have to go deeper. We have to call to God. We have to sit and just raise our consciousness and then look deeply at this point. And our master used to say that often, as much as you can, make it a habit to live at this point, and you will see that sooner or later you will be able to relate to this world as nothing but a dream. And I would just like to conclude this with the master's final word, which he said, that vibration produces duality. To know the one reality behind all appearances, remove yourself mentally from nature's oppositional states. Accept with an even mind whatever comes to you in life, pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow, success and failure. Live for God alone, serve Him only, and love only Him. So it is very easy to say that yes, we can live even-mindedly, but we won't be able to live even-mindedly by the power of mind alone. We can only live even-mindedly when we can go beyond duality, when we can live in God, when we can always, serve Him, and we always love Him alone. So with that thought keeping uppermost in our mind, I'll take your leave, and joy to you and have a very nice weekend.